On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Gena Rowlands, the luminous American actress whose work defined an era of emotionally raw, character-driven cinema, passed away at the age of 94 from natural causes. Her death marked the quiet close of a life that had left an indelible mark on film, particularly through her groundbreaking collaborations with director John Cassavetes, her husband. In an industry often driven by spectacle, Rowlands built her legacy on vulnerability, authenticity, and the exploration of the human condition, embodying the cultural shift in mid-20th century cinema toward more intimate, psychologically rich storytelling. Rowlands rose to prominence in the 1960s and 1970s, a period when Hollywood was increasingly open to experimental, character-centered narratives. Films like A Woman Under the Influence and Gloria offered not just entertainment but cultural reflection, grappling with themes of mental health, gender roles, and personal agency. Her artistry was deeply tied to the values of her era, particularly the growing appetite for realism and emotional honesty in American film. The fact that she lived to old age, passing away peacefully, stands in contrast to the many Hollywood legends whose lives ended abruptly, underscoring her ability to navigate fame while maintaining personal and creative integrity. The immediate response to her passing was one of reverence and gratitude. Fellow actors, directors, and critics hailed her as a guiding light for generations of performers, someone whose work had elevated the craft and expanded the emotional possibilities of screen acting. Social media tributes and retrospectives surged, bringing her work to new audiences and reaffirming her place in cinematic history. For many, her death didn't diminish her presence. It reignited interest in her films, ensuring that her performances would continue to inspire and challenge viewers. Rowlands' passing reminds us of how certain figures achieve a form of immortality not through political power or public office, but through the emotional truths they leave behind in art. While her life ended without scandal or dramatic upheaval, her legacy was amplified in death as audiences revisited the films that captured her fearless emotional range. We commemorate her not only through awards, retrospectives, and preservation of her films, but in the acting techniques she helped normalize. Performances rooted in lived experience and unflinching honesty. Her death serves as a quiet meditation on how memory, artistry, and cultural values intertwine. Gena Rowlands showed that power can reside in authenticity, and in death, her influence continues to shape how we tell stories, how we see ourselves, and how art preserves the essence of those we have lost. Lisa Robin Kelly, best known for her role as Laurie Forman on the hit sitcom That 70s Show, died on August 14, 2013 at the age of 43. Her death was the result of multiple drug intoxication, ruled an accident, while she was in a California rehab facility. It was a tragic end that mirrored both the darker undercurrents of Hollywood's celebrity culture and the broader societal struggles with addiction and mental health in the early 21st century. Kelly rose to fame in the late 1990s, during a television era that celebrated youth, nostalgia, and witty comedy. Yet, beneath her on-screen charm, she faced personal battles that were increasingly visible in the age of tabloid journalism and relentless media scrutiny. Her struggles with substance abuse and legal troubles became public in a way that would have been far less common for stars in earlier decades, reflecting how the internet and 24-hour entertainment news magnified both fame and failure. The immediate consequences of her death were an outpouring of grief from fans and co-stars, but also a sobering conversation about the pressures on young actors. Her passing cut short any hope of a career resurgence, cementing her legacy in a bittersweet way, remembered for a role that brought laughter, but also for the personal demons that shadowed her later years. In the public's mind, she became part of a tragic lineage of talented performers whose lives ended too soon, echoing earlier Hollywood cautionary tales. Her death amplified her legend in a subtle but powerful way. While she never achieved the level of stardom that would alter the trajectory of entertainment history, her story resonated as a reminder of the vulnerability behind fame. In the years following, retrospectives of that 70s show often included tributes to her, and fan communities continued to share moments from her performances, preserving her work in the collective memory of television culture. The way Lisa Robin Kelly is remembered reveals much about humanity's relationship with mortality and memory. We tend to immortalize public figures through the roles and moments that brought us joy, even as we acknowledge their struggles. Through streaming services, fan compilations, and memorial articles, her work lives on, allowing her to be seen not just as a tragic figure, but as a vibrant performer whose brief career left a lasting impression. Her passing underscores a truth that transcends eras. Fame may magnify a life, but it is human vulnerability and how we choose to remember it that keeps a legacy alive. Enzo Ferrari, the legendary founder of Scuderia Ferrari and the Ferrari automobile marque, died on August 14, 1988, at the age of 90 in Modena, Italy. His death was from natural causes, the quiet close of a life spent at the roaring center of motorsport innovation and competition. In an era when industrialists often became cultural icons, Ferrari stood apart. His persona fused the romanticism of Italian design with the ruthless pursuit of engineering perfection. The circumstances of his passing reflected the values of his time and his own philosophy. By the late 20th century, the post-war economic boom had given rise to a global fascination with speed, luxury, and prestige, qualities Ferrari embodied and exported to the world. His death did not come with the drama of political intrigue or violent upheaval, but rather with the weight of a long life lived in pursuit of excellence. Yet even in its quietness, his passing reverberated across the automotive and sporting worlds. The immediate consequences were both symbolic and tangible. In Italy, Ferrari's death was a national moment of mourning. Flags flew at half-mast, and tributes poured in from world leaders, drivers, and fans. On the business side, his passing marked the end of an era of founder-led vision at Ferrari, setting the stage for corporate evolution and increased partnerships with Fiat. It also sparked a renewed interest in Ferrari's racing heritage, with many seeing the late 1980s as the start of a shift from pure passion-driven competition to the more commercialized, brand-focused Formula One culture of the modern era. Ferrari's death amplified his legend by crystallizing the narrative of the man as both visionary and enigma. Known for his guarded privacy and selective public appearances, he had built a mystique that was only heightened after his passing. The prancing horse logo, already a global symbol of prestige, became even more closely tied to the memory of its creator, a man whose life's work blurred the line between machine and art. His story reveals much about humanity's relationship with mortality, power, and memory. We immortalize figures like Ferrari not through monuments alone, but through the continued presence of their creations in everyday life. Every time a Ferrari engine roars to life on a racetrack or a city street, it becomes an act of remembrance. Through documentaries, biographies, and the preservation of his cars in museums, Enzo Ferrari remains both a historical figure and a living presence in the culture of speed. His passing, though peaceful, ensured that his name would forever be linked with the pursuit of perfection. a legacy as enduring as the cars that bear it. Peter Marshall, the beloved American television personality best known as the original host of Hollywood Squares, died peacefully in his sleep on August 12, 2024, at the age of 98. His death was from natural causes, a gentle close to a life lived in the spotlight of American entertainment for over half a century. Unlike the violent or politically charged departures of many historical figures, Marshall's passing reflected a modern era where fame is sustained not by scandal or tragedy, but by enduring charm, wit, and the warmth of one's connection to audiences. Marshall's career spanned multiple eras of show business, from the golden age of television variety programs to the glitzy, celebrity-driven game shows of the 1970s. His death occurred in a time when the entertainment industry was undergoing rapid transformation, shifting from network dominance to digital streaming platforms. In this sense, his passing symbolized the fading of a television era built on shared cultural moments when families gathered around a single set to laugh together. The immediate reaction to his death was one of nostalgia and gratitude. Fellow entertainers, fans, and industry veterans flooded social media with tributes, remembering his quick humor, professionalism, and kindness backstage. His death reminded many of a time when television hosts were not just media personalities, but household companions. For younger generations, it sparked a renewed interest in Hollywood Squares and the lighthearted, star-studded comedy it brought to viewers. Marshall's death also amplified his legend. While he had largely stepped back from the limelight in later years, his departure prompted a re-evaluation of his role in shaping television's comedic rhythm. In the same way Johnny Carson came to symbolize late-night television, Marshall became forever linked to the cheerful chaos of celebrity banter and improvisation. The revival of interest in his work demonstrated how a figure's legacy can grow even after decades away from peak fame. His story highlights humanity's relationship with mortality, power, and memory in the context of popular culture. Unlike political leaders or historical revolutionaries, Marshall's power was in the joy he cultivated, the cultural bonds he helped strengthen through shared laughter. We immortalize figures like him through television reruns, archival footage, interviews, and affectionate retellings in memoirs and documentaries. Each time an old episode of Hollywood Squares plays, with Marshall's signature smile and easy charm at the center, it becomes a small act of remembrance, proof that while the man is gone, the joy he brought remains timeless. Janus, the powerhouse vocalist of the heavy metal band Huntress, died on August 14, 2018, at the age of 43. Her death was ruled a suicide, ending a life marked by extraordinary talent and equally extraordinary struggles. Known for her operatic range and commanding stage presence, Janus was a rare figure in the male-dominated metal scene, both admired and envied for her fearless performances. Her passing reflected not only the personal battles she faced, but also the broader challenges of mental health within the music industry, an issue often obscured by the glamour and intensity of the stage. Janus had been candid about her struggles with mental illness, speaking openly about her diagnoses, including bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, as well as her long fight with depression. Her death came at a time when conversations about mental health were becoming more visible, yet the stigma and isolation that accompanies such conditions still silenced many. In this way, her passing became a mirror for an era struggling to reconcile its growing awareness of psychological wellness with the lingering reluctance to address it openly and compassionately. The immediate consequence of her death was a wave of grief across the rock and metal communities. Fellow musicians, fans, and industry voices paid tribute, many using the moment to call for more mental health support for artists. For some, Janus's death amplified her legend, transforming her from a talented frontwoman into a symbol of both the power and fragility of creative spirits. In the months following, her music reached new listeners, drawn by the haunting knowledge that the same voice capable of such fierce expression had been silenced by inner torment. Janus's passing also underscores how mortality interacts with fame. While some historical deaths alter political landscapes, hers shifted a cultural conversation. Her openness about her illness during her life and the tragic manner of her death forced fans and peers to confront uncomfortable truths about the pressures artists face: constant touring, public scrutiny, and the thin line between persona and person. We immortalize Jill Janus not through statues or political memorials, but through the enduring echo of her voice, captured in recordings and live performances preserved online. Each time her soaring vocals rip through a Huntress track, listeners are reminded of both the immense gift she gave and the cost it exacted. In this way, her story becomes not only a chapter in metal's history, but also a testament to the need for compassion, awareness, and honest dialogue about mental health, a legacy as vital as any melody she ever sang. Gail Sergard, the first recipient of the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, died on August 14, 1985, at the age of 86. Her death from natural causes in Woodland Hills, California, marked the quiet end of a life that had once been glittering with Hollywood prestige, only to be overshadowed by the political turbulence of mid-20th century America. Sergard rose to prominence in the 1930s and 1940s, celebrated for her elegance and versatility in roles ranging from sinister femme fatales to sympathetic mothers. Yet her career came to an abrupt halt in the early 1950s during the era of the Hollywood blacklist. Though she was not accused of Communist Party membership herself, her husband, director Herbert Biberman, was one of the Hollywood 10, a group imprisoned and barred from work for refusing to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee. Sergard stood by him, refusing to denounce others or cooperate with the investigation, a decision that reflected the moral and political tensions of her time. Her passing in the 1980s came during a period when Hollywood was slowly beginning to reckon with the injustices of the blacklist. While her death did not send political shockwaves in the way a leader's assassination might, it reopened conversations about the costs of political conviction and the silencing of voices in the arts. For many who remembered her, Sergard's quiet exit from life mirrored her dignified withdrawal from the public stage, an act of integrity that, while costly, became part of her legacy. In some ways, her death amplified her legend. Fans and historians revisited her work, rediscovering performances in films like Anthony Adverse and The Letter. Retrospectives and film festivals brought her artistry back into the public eye, reframing her as not only a gifted actress, but also a woman who paid a personal price for her principles. Her story reflects humanity's enduring fascination with resilience in the face of adversity. Unlike Cleopatra's dramatic suicide or Lincoln's shocking assassination, Sergard's passing was quiet, yet the arc of her life, rising to fame, enduring political exile, and living to see a partial restoration of her reputation, speaks to the human desire to be remembered for integrity as much as for achievement. We immortalize figures like Gail Sergard not with monuments, but through the preservation and celebration of their art. Every restored print of her films, every retrospective screening serves as both commemoration and corrective, ensuring that history remembers not only her performances, but also the courage that defined her life. Bertolt Brecht, the German playwright, poet, and theater theorist whose works reshaped modern drama, died on August 14, 1956 in East Berlin at the age of 58. His death from a heart attack, reportedly complicated by pneumonia, was a natural but untimely end for a man whose life had been defined by political engagement, artistic experimentation, and ideological exile. Brecht's passing occurred during the height of the Cold War, a period when the arts were as much a battleground of ideology as politics or diplomacy. Having fled Nazi Germany in 1933, Brecht lived in exile across Europe and the United States before returning to the newly established German Democratic Republic in 1949. His association with Marxism, combined with his sharp critiques of both capitalist and authoritarian systems, meant he never fit neatly into the propaganda machinery of either East or West. By the time of his death, he was both celebrated and mistrusted in the GDR, honored for his contributions to socialist culture, yet scrutinized for his independence of thought. The immediate consequences of Brecht's death were felt most acutely in the theater world. His Berliner Ensemble, the company he founded with his wife Helene Weigel, became the living custodian of his artistic vision. Productions of Mother Courage and Her Children, The Threepenny Opera, and The Life of Galileo took on new resonance, now seen as part of his enduring political and cultural legacy rather than as works in progress. His death did not silence his voice. Instead, it amplified it. In both East and West, scholars and directors revisited his epic theater and Verfremdungseffekt, alienation effect, as tools for confronting audiences with uncomfortable truths about power, morality, and the human condition. Brecht's quiet, natural death stood in contrast to the political turbulence of his life, yet it reflected the challenges of his era, the constant negotiation between art and ideology, and the individual's struggle to remain true to principle under political pressure. If Cleopatra's suicide embodied personal agency in a collapsing empire, and Lincoln's assassination symbolized the fragility of national healing, Brecht's passing suggested a different truth, that an artist's influence can survive the political storms that shape them. We immortalize Brecht not through statues or state honors, but through the continued performance and reinterpretation of his plays. In classrooms, theaters, and literary studies, his works remain active provocations, asking audiences to question the narratives of power they are presented. His death closed the curtain on a singular life, but his art ensures that the dialogue between stage and society will never truly end.